Hello and welcome to this video. My name is David Thorne. In this actual video we're going to be creating essentially a login form for iOS using Swift in Xcode. That looks roughly like this. It's going to have an input field, password field, a button that you can then log in with, possible title, and that's about it. And then we're going to link up the buttons to an event, and this event is then is going to use a delegate, which is then going to then send like an authentication request off to the implementation, which is going to come back to say whether it was good or bad or not, and then it will then navigate somewhere away from it. But there's not going to be actually any implementation in this. It's just going to be creating the view and creating the functionality of it. Now, if we look at this, what we're going to be doing is just be creating the view, okay, and the controller that controls the view. The other stuff we're not going to be creating, okay, that's for a later video, but for the time being, a view and its controller, or a view controller. Okay, so let's get started, shall we? So first thing we're going to do is going to create a Cocoa Touch framework, and we're going to call this a login view, and we'll call it an email password login view, okay, because there are different types that you can have. We'll include unit tests as well, and let's make this full screen, and I'll save it in my Xcode projects Git repository, so you can access it. And if I remember rightly, actually, I wanted to have, we can just close this down and I can change the folder that it was in, because I wanted it actually move it into this authentication folder. Yes, that's better. So let's go into there and open up whoops, we want Xcode projects. Let's open that up. Okay, now we're back in here again. Okay, good. So once we've got this, we're just going to create my default folder structure, which is then of classes, and then assets, and then in here we need to create first of all the view controller. So we're going to call it email password. Let's spell it correctly. Login view controller, and it looks good. Save it to classes. That's fantastic. Okay, and then we'll just copy this for our storyboard. Okay, add a controller to it. Add our view controller to here and make it the initial view controller. That's looking good. And then come to here, we'll make it open. Make this open as well with one O. Remove this. We'll make also my instance method, because I like doing it this way. I like to follow the same pattern all the time, and this is then going to be an extension of the, and this is then going to static var storyboard, and this will return the storyboard. You can have snippets for this, which I would highly recommend to do, and that's for self. And then we want to have our instance method, and this is then going to return our view controller, and we'll say this, and we can say storyboard instantiate as this with our default view controller here. and we'll return VC. And what I do know is it's going to need a delegate. So we're going to come in here, and we're then going to say this, and we'll declare that in a second. And we'll say that it's going to have a delegate too. All right. And so let's create this delegate also. That's now there, so this won't be annoyed. And then finally, yeah, okay, we need to add the actual delegate property as well to the view controller. And once we've got this, we can come back to this instance method, and we'll say, because I like doing this as well, in navigation controller, and yeah, and we just do let nav equals this, and return this like that. Okay, we should now be totally happy about this, and we have our basic view controller, which is all good. All right, next thing to do is we know that we're going to need a an email address, and this is going to be a label, and we need to know that we're going to have a password as well. Okay, so we'll call this email field or user field. In this scenario, we're going to be using a email and password, all right, because that's what we called it. And once these did set here, then we have a guard statement to say field equals self dots email field, otherwise it's not been set yet, and return, and we can say field text is equal to email address, and so on. And so we can copy this as well, put it for the password, and we can say password and change this here. Also, we're also going to need a password field label we want. And we're also going to need then the actual password field. So we can copy these, or we copy one, and then we've got UI text field. So now we've got the actual field, and it should be label. That's better. Okay, now we've got the email field, and then we're setting the and we'll say enter your email here. And now we want password field. Put this here. Enter your password. And this secure text. Yes, is secure text entry. Yes, so we're saying that it is a password. So now we have both of our labels and fields to go with it. We're also going to need our button. So let's get a button. So a login button. And this is going to come here, and once this is set, and we want to then say the set title is then login for normal, I believe. And then we want IB action, right? And this is going to be login button tapped, and the sender, sender's then a UI button, all right? And we'll say button was tapped, and once the button was tapped, we're then going to have a method in here. This is going to be an email and password because we're going to validate it already, and completion, I don't know what the completion is going to actually do yet, but I'm guessing we could just give a result, and yeah, I think a result would be good, and possibly we're going to do an error. Okay, so we're going to say email login error. Okay, and this here, it will create another file, and it's not going to be an actual error, it's going to be an enum. Case is wrong password, disabled user, invalid email, for example, unknown user, invalid password, wrong password, unknown user. Yes, always say user not found, sounds a bit better. So this is going to be the error that will come back, and we'll make this optional as well. So I'm guessing really result is, yeah, we don't need even result, because if the error is optional, if the error is nil, then we know that everything is fine. So that'll do fine. And so once the button's been tapped, we can then say delegate.authenticate, and here potentially we want to then get the email and say self dots email field text, and do this, and password self dots. We'll validate it shortly and do this here as well. All right, so we'll put that there. Email can come in here, and so if error is equal to nil, else this, and we'll do something this later, display error. Otherwise, we'll have a delegate is then should continue, yeah. So should continue should only be called if everything is all right, and we can documentate this as well. Should only be called once the user has been authenticated and the authentication method has been called. Yeah, and that'll do. All right, so we know this, and if everything is okay, then we can say delegate should continue. All right, that should then exit us out of the. But in actual fact, what we should do here is let's give it the controller as well, because then inside of the controller they can then do any navigation away and so on and so on. So now we have pretty much the body of the all the data that we need. Let's put a box inside of this ViewController, and so we can position it anywhere we want when we do later. Let's just do this for now, and then we need a we're going to yeah, we'll just do it the long way first of all, and then we'll refactor it later if we have time. So we'll put 20 margin 2020, and that'll do fine. And then text field comes in here, and at the top, whoops, top 2020, height, I don't know, 50, probably do fine. And that sits like there. Let's give it that like that. That's looking good. And let's do another label. And sits like that. This is the kind of thing that you would want to then extract to its own subview, right? Well, I would do it anyway, like that. What was it, 50? Goes there, and then do that there like that. And now we want a button. The button comes under here, and let's say that this is then 45. Or if it's others are 50, then let's make it 50 as well. So it's there. Now we can link it up with all of our IB outlets. So email field is there, password field, email field, password field, login button, and then login button action. Okay, let's give it some text. We've given it here anyway. We've given it there. The field, login button, placeholder. Yep, it's fine. And we also could have default email as well if required. So we'll do set that is then the email field text equals default email. This we then need to send self to. Yep, that's fine. Alright, we're pretty much done. Let's just change the colour of this button because I don't like it, and the background colour I'm going to give it is probably going to be even worse, but we can style this later. And the button, we set the text there already. Okay, let's put this onto iPhone 6 and let's build it. Should build okay. Yeah, good. And let's change a few things on here to make it compatible with lots of stuff. I'm going to make it Swift 4.2 just because. And now we've done that, we want to create now a single page, what's it called? A single view app. And so this is then going to be called the authentication application, yeah? And we don't want any unit tests for it time being in this project. Yes, perfect. And once we've done this, we want to add our framework to it. So let's add it there. And we want to change our workspace settings to this so it gets built. And once we've added this, we can then come and remove this and import our email password view, and VC equals then email password view instance, delegate is equal to self, and then window dot root equals VC, and that's in navigation controller. I don't know why that's not working. Why is that not working? Did I do something wrong there? It doesn't look like it. Oh yeah, of course, right, that's why. Let's extend our app delegate, and this wants to be then delegate here, and this should then handle the authentication and also should continue. All right, so we'll call the completion handler with no errors at the moment, and then we'll say all good here. Okay, so it's fine. We can build this. Should also be fine. That is then optional, but we can't have that option actually, so we have to have it like that. Can it call non-functional type? Did I do a property or did I do a method? Ah, okay, no wonder I did a method. Let's make it, that is a bit better. Well, it's not better, I just like it that way. So, okay, let's build it. Should be fine, succeeded, and let's run it. So we're on 21 minutes at the moment. And there it is, right? So we can press the button, all good here, gets submitted. All right, so now let's have a title as well. It looks a bit better if we have something to display above our so let's change top to be 300, and that'll move it down. And now let's move down, we can actually delete this top one again, and then put another label in here. And we'll say 40 2020, and put a title here of saying login, email, login form, authenticate yourself, Nah, I'm just going to say login form. That'll be fine. And then we just change this to be like 30 and make this a bit bigger title, so like 25 or something, or 30, even better. Way too big, 25. Okay, let's run it again. There's no reason why it shouldn't look any different. Okay, it's all there, and the password is all being shown. Right, we want some form of validation now that we can tell that the so what we want at the beginning is that the button to be is enabled is false. All right, we don't want it to be enabled, and in order to do this, we want to be able to react upon these password fields when they're being entered. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a tag to these, and the password field we're going to add a tag of 1, and the email field we're going to add a tag of 0. And then what we're going to do is we're going to update the here to be then text field delegate. All right, and what this is going to do is, if we look at the text field delegate, we can work out when the value's changed of it if this decides to load. And what we want is then when it's changed, text field did begin editing, should be editing. Actually, we don't want, no, this is not what we want. We want it direct on the, we don't need a delegate actually. Okay, we want field add target and self, and whoops. And here we're going to say selector is then text field value changed for control. What event was it? Value changed. Action. Where's the hash on this? Where's the hash? There it is. That's text field value change. So we change the name of this method now. We have to put it inside here. And sender is then UI text field. Okay, this is going to be called every single time sender. So text is what we want. We can dump this out, and every single time the field changes, it's going to be updated. Right, this is going to be cool. So let's run this again, and now we can start doing a little bit of validation of the fields as they're typed in, and the button won't be enabled anymore. So as you can see here, not being called. No, it should be called. Okay. Why is that not being called? So UI text field on value change. So on Swift, I'm doing something wrong here, but this is going to take like 2 seconds to check it. Editing changed. Okay. There we go. Let's change this one and that one there. So let's run it again. Yeah, you can't remember every single thing, and that's why you've got to make sure you can learn how to research things quickly. And I'm guessing this should work now. Okay, there we go. And now we get the event working perfectly fine. Okay. So let's add a flag here for minimum number of password characters required, and this is then going to be 6. All right, it's a very short one. So as this is getting called, what we want to do is we want to say switch sender tag, right? And if it's case 1 or default, then we know that it's the password. So this is now going to be the password, and this is then going to be the email. And we want to know that, well, potentially at this point in time, we can leave this one. Right, if self.password field text dot counts, right, we can do this is then password equals this, and yeah, no, sorry, we don't want to write too much code, and we'll do this, and email equals email field text this here, right? And we actually don't need this this sender, right? So what we want to make sure is, for the time being, is password dot counts is more than equal to minimum here, and email dots its count is more than 0, right? If it is, then self dots login button is enabled is equal to true, else login button is enabled equals false. All right, so now we're enabling it and disabling it as it goes along. So let's do it again. You could enhance this a lot more, but we're trying to get it done as quick as we can. But if you get it done in under an hour, it's fine. So let's go David Thorne here, and the button is disabled still. So now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The button now works, right? Go away, button doesn't work. Add another thing, button works. Remove the email field, button doesn't work. Use 1, the button works. So now we know that it's working, right? Which means that the delegate can then fire, and that's coming here. So if it's not, then we need to now display an error. So let's come here and show error, and we want here is email login error, and switch error. And let's come back to our error here, and let's make it a string as well, so we don't have to mess around with this. And just say here, user not found. The email provided is invalid. The user with this email is disabled, has been disabled. Either the password or email address provided are incorrect. Okay, so there's that there. And now we come to our errors. So switch error, and in this case we're just going to make a default, and we're going to come here and say message, and it has to be set, so we're just going to make it an optional like this. And in this situation we're going to say message equals error raw value. And we got to enhance this a lot better, but we're just going to use an alert, UI alert ViewController error, and then put message in here, and it's an alert self.show. Whoops, what am I doing, David? Presents alert true, and we don't care here, so let's remove that. Now we need, whoops, add action, UI alert action, and we'll say okay, default, and that's basically it. All right, we don't need anything else. We just want okay, and it'll disappear, and it will go away anyway. So good. And if there's a problem, then we'll come here and say this dot show error like that there. And we get rid of this fatal error. And let's run it. So obviously you actually can't tap the button yet, but if we come to our app delegate and if we say then switch email case David Thorn here. So this will be fine, and if it is David Thorn, then we'll say that it's going to be wrong password. All right, so let's run it again, and we should get an error this time. So it means that the person's filled out the email address correctly, although David.Thorn is not an email address. So David.Thorn, and put in any password, and we get error, either the password or email address provided are incorrect. You see, and we're all fine. We can keep doing this over and over again until we then type in something else and we get all good. All right, so this is pretty much it. We could enhance this even further, and we will enhance it even further, but this is a basis for us to go on. Now, last thing is we put a default email here that it can be used, and also minimum number of password characters required, but this is a public, so it means it can be added externally. So let's put default email string here, and we'll just put this at 0, right? So it can be completely optional if you want to use it. And if we build it, it will still build because this is not required, right? But if we come here again default email string, and we say David Thorne and run it again, this time we don't actually need to enter any email address. So it's like a sticky form as such. And it's shown already. So we just need to enter the password and we're done. All right. Okay, this is the first step done. If you look in then the Xcode, it'll be in the project description, Xcode projects under my GitHub, and you'll see the authentication folder, and it will be in there. All right. Otherwise, wait for the next video. I don't know which type of authentication I'm going to use in the second video. I haven't decided yet, but you just have to wait and see. All right. Thanks very much for watching. My name's David Thorne. If you do have any questions, please make sure you comment. Put a comment in, be it negative or positive. I'm always taking feedback. If you like it or dislike it, yeah, please tap one of them to show me, you know, some form of feedback. And if you want to be informed about the next videos, then subscribe and tap the bell, and so on and so on. But ultimately, I just hope that you've learned something today. All right. Thanks very much for watching, and have a nice evening. Bye bye.